Alright.
Okay, so first you have to jack the truck up, put it on jack stands, put a chock on the back wheel so it doesn't go anywhere. You don't have to take the wheels off to do this, and this is a 93 Toyota pickup. Okay, so next step is to loosen the bolt that's holding the torsion key up. Mine was cranked all the way in, which I think is the tightest setting. I didn't do it, so I'm probably going to have to reset it. I'll have to Google factory spec or just try it out. I don't have the right end wrench to hold the top nut that holds the bolt tight, and I'm using my impact with a 22mm socket to loosen it, and I'll show you how it comes out. Get it at the down here where the wrench is. Let me know you're ready.
So I gotta move under?
Sure.
Right here?
Yeah.
Can't see what your hand is doing up there though.
It doesn't matter, I'm gonna tell them.
Okay. Ready.
Far down so nothing's hitting the frame. Might have to use my pry bar. Truck is going to be different on how hard this is to get off, because some places have a lot of salt on the road and cause corrosion, and some places don't. And some people detail the under parts of their car. It's just on the edge here. Might have to get my baby Thor. Let's get this one off. And we'll pause it right now so you don't have to watch me. Alright, so can you see this on the video? The spline shaft here? Okay, so here's the spline shaft. We'll see if we can get an angle on that and show inside here. The spline's in there. Tell me if you can see it or not.
It's dark.
No, too dark? Alright, well, spline part goes up in here, up against these splines, and this bar controls the lower control arm according to how much preload you set. So just to give you a little understanding here, that's how that fits up in there. Okay, pretty simple. There's not really a lot of parts to this, just don't lose anything. Okay, now we'll meet you over at the front of the truck. This here is the bump stop, and this is what it goes up against. And as I was jacking my tire up to set the height that I wanted, the ride height, I noticed this was hitting each other. So what I'm going to have to do now, just for adjustment purposes, is take the lower bump stop off. The bolts are down here underneath. I'm going to take this off just for adjustment, and then later I'm going to cut the metal piece up here off somehow. I don't know how I'm going to get a grinder in there. Might have to go rent a Sawzall from Home Depot or something, but this is going to have to come off, which will be fine. This bump stop will still hit the frame, it just won't hit here. Okay, so since I already have the truck in the air the way I measured it before, it wasn't really going to help me set where I need to be. Since these are both 15-inch rims, I'm just going from the edge of the rim there to the top of this fender and it's about 4 3/4. So I go up to the front here, and I jack the tire up until the top of the rim. And I'm going by the lowest part of the fender, gets to 4 3/4. Okay. All right, and when I put this back on here, I'm gonna put it back in the same position that it was when I took it off. So not only do I mean, of course, obvious putting the splines back on the splines, but the angle that it was drooping when I took it off, which pretty much lines up with the transmission mount angle here, is how I'm going to put it back on. So when you're actually into your truck, even though you're at a weird angle right now, you'll know what I'm talking about. It's flat here, it's angled here, special for this, and I'm just going to put it back that same angle that it was at. Actually, I'm going to do a little bit more than that, just to get it just right. And mine's a little bit banged up. Okay, so let me make sure it's on there all the way. Where did my hammer go? There it is. Once you get it off, it's not real hard to get it back on. I had to pull this little seal off here. I'm just going to push it back on the back side. It just presses on. Okay, then we'll take our bolt, and this doesn't hurt to spray it down one more time. I just cleaned the threads off with some WD-40 before I put it back in there to make this a little easier. Okay. And there's only one hole up here that it will fit in, so it makes it pretty obvious. Where it goes. This one, I didn't know it, but this piece just fell off. It's a half moon. The top of the transmission mount / cross member has a dip in it similar to the key, and this was sitting up there in the groove on top of the bolt. Putting the bolt back in pushed it out, so that's how I found out about it. Now I'm just putting the jam nut on there and starting the threads, and we're not going to tighten it yet because we need to let the wheel back down to take pressure off the torsion bar. I just did it by hand to hold everything in place. I'm going to let it down real quick. Let the tire down. You see the key went up. There's no pressure on it because the tire's just hanging. So tighten this up by hand. And I might just crank this thing all the way up again the way it was before to help me from bottoming out. I don't really care how the ride quality is, as long as it looks cool. Okay, now I'm going to take my adjustable wrench, and I'm going to, last time I had it this way to loosen it, now I'm going to have it this way to tighten it. Just gonna put my handy dandy snap-on wrench into tighten, and those of you who want to know how to make it even on both sides, that bolt that's sticking up there, just leave the lock nut off. Take your tape measure and measure up to the top of the bolt from the top of the original nut that's on there, and measure how much bolt is exposed. Mine was a little bit more than 3 inches, and that's how you can do it on the other side. And at the end of the video, I'll just show you the stance of the truck when it's done. You don't need to watch me do the other side.